Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه الطيبين الطاهرين. I bear witness that no one deserves to be worshipped except Allah Ta'ala. Volume and is not in a place. And how could he be in a place when he existed before time and space? He created everything except himself, including you and your actions. Nothing occurs except by his will, both good and bad, he destined to happen. He speaks without sound, letter, or language, not Arabic, Hebrew, nor Korean. He's not light, he's not a spirit, he has nothing in common with human beings. He's not in the direction of up, down, right, left, front, nor back. And whatever you imagine in your mind, Allah is different than that. And I bear witness that our noble, unrivaled Master Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is a slave of Allah, his final messenger, and the best of all of God's creations. May Allah unite us with him in paradise and grant us a drink from his basin. And may Allah increase us in patience, humility, knowledge, and comprehension, and help us to put our knowledge into practice and grant us all sincere intentions. Ameen. We're continuing in this book, The Straight Path, As-Sirat al-Mustaqim, by Shaykh Abdullah al-Harari. May Allah have mercy on him. We have arrived to page 43. Page 43 in the book, near the bottom of the page, we arrived at the part where it's going to give a rule. So the rule that's about to be given is how do we treat a person who says something that's blasphemy? The past several classes we've been on this subject. Okay, we mentioned that a person can leave Islam by having a belief that's blasphemy, kufr, or by doing an action that's blasphemy, kufr, or by saying an expression that's blasphemy, kufr. And we gave a lot of examples about expressions that are kufr. And then we said there are 5 exceptions. Okay, we said there are 5 cases where a person might say something that's kufr, but he does not leave Islam. The first case was the slip of the tongue. The second case is a person whose consciousness is gone. The third case is the one who's being compelled to say this kufr by threat of death or something similar. The fourth case is the case of the person who's quoting someone else's kufr. In this case, the kufr will not be attributed to him, so he doesn't leave Islam. And the fifth case is the case of ijtihad, or ta'wil, as some scholars say it. This is the person who's sincerely trying to understand this deen, but he misunderstood something. And because of his misunderstanding, he ended up saying something that's kufr. We said as long as his misunderstanding was not in the very clear, 100% certain matters, then the fact that he misunderstood is an excuse, and we say he did not leave Islam. We finally finished talking about these 5 exceptions. So now we want to sum it up with a rule. How do we treat the person who just said a sentence that's kufr? Do we say he's out of Islam? Well, you need to consider the 5 exceptions. Okay? But you also need to consider the language he's speaking. Okay, maybe he's speaking English, maybe he's speaking Arabic, maybe he's speaking something else. You need to consider these things. And the sentence that he said, you need to consider whether it might mean something else. Because sometimes a person might say a sentence and it seems like it's kufr, but maybe it has another meaning that's not kufr. Okay, so what do? Let's read. It says, rule. The expression that has 2 meanings, one of which is a type of blasphemy, and the other is not blasphemy. And the meaning that is blasphemy is the apparent but not explicit meaning. So we're talking about a case here where somebody says something, okay, and it seems like it's kufr because the apparent meaning, like the meaning that pops into your head when you hear it, is a kufr meaning. So you think this person just said kufr, but in reality, that expression that he said could mean something else, and the other meaning is not kufr. What do? Do we say that this person committed kufr? Do we say this person left Islam? Let's see what it says. It says, the one who says it is not charged with blasphemy until it is known which of the two meanings they intended. Okay? So we're talking about a sentence that has one meaning, that's kufr, and the same sentence also has another potential meaning that's not kufr. Okay? It says, we do not say he left Islam until we find out which one of these meanings he intended. I'm reading again. It says, if they said, I intended the blasphemous meaning, okay, if they indicate that the meaning that's blasphemy is the one that they intended, it says they are judged with blasphemy and the rules of apostasy are applied to them. In that case, we rule that they committed kufr, and the rules of apostasy, the rules of the one who left Islam, will be applied to him. Then it says, if that was not the meaning, it should say they intended. It says they are intended. If that was not the meaning they intended, then they are not charged with blasphemy. Okay, so let's talk through this again. We're talking about a person who said a statement or whatever. He said some kind of expression. Okay, the expression could have more than one meaning. Okay, or the expression does have more than one meaning, and one of these meanings is kufr, and one of these meanings is not kufr. So what it means is that this expression that the person said, it's not for sure kufr. It depends on what he intended. Did he intend a kufr meaning or did he intend a non-kufr meaning? If he intended kufr, we say he committed kufr and he left Islam. If he did not intend the kufr meaning, rather he intended the meaning that's not kufr, we say, well, then he did not commit kufr and he did not leave Islam. What are some examples to help us understand this? What are some examples? Um, in Arabic, there's a word nabi, which many of us know means prophet. Okay, we talk about Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We say a nabi. Okay, but this word nabi in Arabic, it has another meaning. It's also used to refer to al-ard al-muhdawdibah, al-ard al-muhdawdibah, which means like land that has like high parts and low parts in it. Land that's not even. It's not flat. It has high parts and low parts. That is also called in Arabic nabi. So if someone says in Arabic, as-salatu ala nabiyyi as-salatu ala nabiyyi makruh, if someone says as-salatu ala nabiyyi makruh, this is an example of a sentence that has two meanings. If he means by that for us to say sallallahu ala Muhammad is makruh, that is disliked, then this is kufr. Because he's rejecting the deen. The deen says that for us to say sallallahu ala Muhammad is something that is good, not makruh. It's something that's rewardable. It's something that's mandub, something that's mustahab, something that's sunnah. So if a person says it's makruh, this is kufr and he leaves Islam. But if he meant, when he said the sentence, as-salatu ala nabiyyi makruh, if he meant by that for us to perform salat on a land that's uneven with like heights and drops and things like that. Uh, such that like the place where you're praying at, you're not uh, like steady. Well, then in that case, this is a true statement. To make salat in a place like that is, in fact, makruh, because a person will not have any khushu'ah if he's wobbling and steady and got potentially going to fall off of some high place down to a low place. Uh, this is a true statement. So when he says as-salatu ala nabi makruh, if by nabi he means uneven land, then there's nothing wrong with his statement. If by nabi he means Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, well then it's kufr. Okay, so we ask him in this case, what do you mean when you say as-salatu ala nabi makruh? If he says, yeah, praying on uneven land is not, that is disliked, we say, okay, no problem. If he says it's disliked to say Allahumma salli ala Muhammad, well then we say, you ain't a Muslim no more, bro. Say the shahadas to come back to Islam. All right. What's another example? Another Arabic example. If someone said in Arabic, khubzun khairum min Allah. If someone says in Arabic, khubzun khairum min Allah. If he means by that bread is better than Allah, then this is kufr. And we say this person has left Islam. But if he means by that bread is a ni'mah min Allah, that bread is like a blessing from Allah, well then, there's nothing wrong with that statement. Bread is a blessing from Allah. This word khair in Arabic, it can be used to mean better than, but it can also just mean a good thing. Okay, so if you say khubz is khair min Allah, a person might mean by that bread is better than Allah, but a person might mean that bread is a good thing that's from Allah. Allah gave us this good thing, gave us this blessing. Okay, so depending on which meaning they intended, it might be kufr or it might not be kufr. In these cases, where a sentence has a kufr meaning and a non-kufr meaning, we do not rush and say that this person left Islam. We do not call him a kafir right away. No, we cannot conclude anything until we find out which meaning he actually intended. So we ask him, what did you mean? And then after he says what he meant, then we judge him accordingly. Okay, what's an example in English of something a person might say in English that has two meanings like that? It's like the word adore. Adore. In English, the word adore has more than one meaning. It can mean to worship. Okay? I'm sure many of you have heard those Christmas songs where they say about the baby Jesus, oh, come, let us adore him. What they mean by that is, let us worship him. Okay? Because the word adore, it means to worship. But the word adore also means to love something strongly. Like a man might say to his wife, I adore you, meaning I love you a lot. Or he might say about his baby, I adore you, meaning I love you a lot. So the word adore has these two meanings. It can mean to worship or to love. Okay, so if you say about your baby, for example, I adore you, well, if you mean by that you worship the baby, then that's kufr. But if you mean by that you love the baby, that is not kufr. Okay, and these things happen. One word can sometimes have more than one meaning, and sometimes it just happens that because of the way the sentence was written, or the way the sentence was constructed, the way it was composed, uh, it could be kufr if you intended one meaning, or it could be not kufr if you intended the other meaning. Let's go back to the book. It says, likewise, if the expression has many meanings, and all of its meanings were blasphemy except one, they are not charged with blasphemy until the intent of the blasphemous meaning is known from them. This is what was mentioned by some Hanafi scholars in their books. Okay, so if you understand the case where whatever the person said had two meanings, one kufr and one not kufr. If you understand that case, and you understand that we don't judge him to have left Islam until we know that he actually intended the kufr meaning, then you'll also understand the case of a sentence that has many, many, many meanings, and all of those meanings are kufr, except one. It has one meaning that's not kufr, and it has a whole bunch of meanings that are kufr. Even in this case, we do not say that he left Islam until we ask him, what did you mean? And if he meant one of those kufr meanings, then we say he left Islam. But if he meant the one meaning that's not kufr, then we say he did not leave Islam. Okay, it's not hard to understand. All right, if he intended the meaning that's safe, then he didn't leave Islam. If he intended the meaning that's kufr, he did leave Islam. Okay, but we can't judge him until we know what he intended. I'm going to say this last sentence written here on this paragraph one more time. It says, this is what was mentioned by some Hanafi scholars in their books. This, what I just said, this is what those Hanafi scholars said in their books. They said that if a statement has a lot of meanings that are kufr and one meaning that's not kufr, we don't judge him to be a kafir until we find out which meaning he intended. All right. In this next paragraph, we're going to talk about a misunderstanding that some people have on this issue. Okay, a misunderstanding that has spread by word of mouth in its incorrect form and has misguided a lot of people. It says, as for the saying of some people, that if the statement has 99 opinions confirming a charge of blasphemy, and one opinion not confirming a charge of blasphemy, then abandoning the charge of blasphemy is taken. It is meaningless. Okay, so what is this thing that some people that spread around, a lot of people say, a lot of common people who are not students of knowledge, what do they say? They say that if there's a certain sentence, and 99 scholars said that sentence is kufr, but one scholar said that sentence is not kufr, the lay people, what do they say? They say, well, we ignore the 99 scholars and we go with the one that said it's not kufr. Okay, what does Shaykh Abdullah, the author of this book, say about that? He said, it is meaningless. This thing that people say is meaningless. Okay, our deen is based on the truth. It's not based on numbers. Okay, we don't say that because 99 people said this, that is definitely right. And we don't say because one person said it, it's definitely right. We don't say because the one is easy, it's definitely right. And because the 99 is hard, it's definitely wrong. No, it goes by what Allah and His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said. Okay, if the 99 people are wrong and the one person is right, then we go with what the one person said. If the one person is wrong and the 99 are right, then we go with what the people who said the right thing said. It's not about numbers. Okay? And in the end, this thing that people say, it's a misunderstanding to begin with. Okay? What the scholars actually said is what we talked about in the previous paragraph. They didn't say if 99 scholars said it's blasphemy and one scholar said it isn't. What they said is if a statement has 99 meanings that are blasphemy and one meaning that is not blasphemy, then we don't judge him to have left Islam until we find out which meaning he intended. Okay, it's not saying we're not counting the opinions of the scholars here. We're looking at the sentence that he spoke, and we're looking at the language he spoke that sentence in, and we look up in the dictionary how many meanings those words have. And so you can figure out how many meanings the sentence might have. And then you look and you see if any of those meanings are blasphemous and if any of them are not blasphemous. And we judge him. Since within the meanings there are some that are blasphemy and some that aren't, we judge him according to his intention. If he intended blasphemy, he left Islam. If he intended something that's not blasphemy, he did not leave Islam. It says, it is not valid to attribute that to Malik, nor to Abu Hanifa, as Sayyid Sabiq attributed the likes of it to Imam Malik. Okay. Sayyid Sabiq, who is not a trustworthy person, by the way, Sayyid Sabiq, he wrote a book called Fiqh Sunnah, and it has a lot of errors in it. It's not a trustworthy book to study, so if any of you have it, don't study it. But Sayyid Sabiq, he took this sentence that if 99 scholars say it's blasphemy and one scholar says it's not, then you go with the one scholar. He said something very similar to that, and he attributed it to Imam Malik, okay, or to Abu Hanifa. And the common people, they say that Imam Malik or Abu Hanifa is the one that said this sentence, and neither of them said this sentence. MashaAllah. However, there is something that's confirmed from Muhammad ibn Hassan al-Shaybani. Muhammad ibn Hassan al-Shaybani is one of the two companions of Abu Hanifa, a huge scholar. He has his own madhab. There is a statement on this subject confirmed from him in which he said, he gives the example. If you tell someone, he said, if someone says to a man, pray. He said, if someone says to a man, pray, and that man says, I'm not going to pray. Muhammad ibn Hassan al-Shaybani says, well, if he means by that, I'm not going to pray because I already prayed, then we don't judge him with kufr. He says, if he means by that, I'm not going to pray because you said so, meaning like, he's going to pray, but the reason why he's going to pray is not because you told him to, right? He's going to pray for some other reason. Then in that case, we don't judge him with kufr. He said, or if he means I'm not going to pray because I'm lazy, even then, we don't judge him with kufr. He says, but if he meant belittlement of the salat, then we rule him to be a kafir. Okay, this is what Muhammad al-Shaybani said. And you'll see that the actual statement of the scholar agrees with what we were saying earlier. He didn't say if a whole bunch of scholars said it's kufr and a whole bunch of and one or two scholars said it's not, then you go with the minority or you go with the easy opinion. That's not what he said. He said you take the statement, and if it has meanings that are acceptable and meanings that are kufr, then you see which meaning he intended. If he intended kufr, you judge him a kafir. If he did not intend kufr, you judge him to not be a kafir. Continuing in the book, the scholars said, as for the explicit meaning, that which only has one meaning. Okay, so here we're changing subjects again. We're still talking about the rule. Okay, we mentioned a rule that said if someone speaks a sentence that appears to be blasphemy, we ask ourselves, does it have a meaning that's not blasphemy? And if it has a meaning that's not blasphemy, what did we say you do? You ask him what his intention was, and you judge him according to whether he intended the blasphemy or the non-blasphemy. Now we're switching a little bit, and we're saying, well, what if the statement that he said, it means something that's kufr, but it doesn't have any meaning that's not kufr? Like all of the meanings of this sentence are kufr. This one, we call it explicit. We call it explicit kufr, explicit blasphemy. Because the sentence that he said, it's blasphemous, and there's no other meaning except blasphemy that it could possibly have. This is what we're going to talk about now. And what you'll see is that in this case, we do not ask him what his intention was. Because what he said can only mean blasphemy. So we're not going to ask him, which of these meanings did you intend? All of those meanings are blasphemy, so it doesn't matter which one he intended. We don't ask him, because if we ask him, did you intend this? All that's going to do is prompt him to commit kufr again, which you don't want to do. Okay? We don't prompt people to commit kufr. All right? We don't do that. So if someone says a sentence where the only thing it can mean is kufr, We don't ask him, what did you intend? We don't ask him, what did you mean? Instead, what we ask him is, what did you understand from this sentence? We try to assess, does this person even know what he said? Does this person know the meaning of the sentence that came out of his mouth? Okay, and what you're going to see in this paragraph is, if he understood the meaning of what he said, then we judge him to be a kafir because he chose to say a sentence that only has kufr meanings, and he understood the meaning of that sentence. So that means he chose to say kufr. We judge him as a kafir. Okay, but if he did not understand what he said, okay, he doesn't understand the language he's speaking. He thought it meant something else entirely. Well, then in that case, this sentence, it'll be similar to the first case for him. It means something kufr, but he thought it had a different meaning. And so if that's what he understood, we ask him then, well, which meaning did you intend? If he intended this different meaning that the sentence really doesn't have, by the way, but he thought it had that meaning, if he intended that one, then we judge him according to what he intended. Okay? Uh, what we do initially, though, is we don't ask him what he intended because his sentence is explicit. It only has a kufr meaning. So we don't ask him what he intended. We ask him what he understood from the sentence. We try to find out, does he even understand what he's saying? All right, let's read the paragraph, inshallah. I'm going to make a slight change to it. It says, the scholar said, as for the explicit meaning, that which only has one meaning, which, I changed the word it here to which demands the charge of blasphemy. I'll put a comma there after the word blasphemy. And I'm just going to skip this word therefore. I'm going to pretend it's not even there. I'm going to say the one who says it is charged with blasphemy. I'm going to read it again. As for the explicit meaning, that which only has one meaning, which demands the charge of blasphemy, the one who says it is charged with blasphemy. Like saying, I am Allah. Okay, here's an example of something that's explicit blasphemy. If someone says, I am Allah, that's kufr. And there's no like meaning to that sentence except a kufr meaning. Okay, there's no meaning to that sentence except a kufr meaning. There's no acceptable meaning in that sentence. So this person, the sentence that he said is definitely 100% kufr. But we don't judge him to be a kafir. We don't say he left Islam until we find out whether he understood what that sentence means. Okay? If he understood what it means, but he claims he didn't intend that meaning though, we don't accept that from him. We say he left Islam. Because he understood what the sentence I am Allah means, and he said it willfully. So we say he left Islam. Even if he claims, well, I didn't, even if he says, I didn't mean that, I mean, I don't know what kind of excuse a person would come up with for this particular example, but if he claims he didn't intend to claim to be the creator of the universe, he intended something else, we don't accept it from him. Because he knows what that sentence means, and he said it freely. Okay, but what if you find someone who literally didn't know what it meant? Like, say you ran into somebody from a foreign country, like say he's from China, and he doesn't know English. He came to America. Um, he doesn't know any English. The first person he met in America, or at least the first Chinese-speaking person he met in America, he asked that person, "How do I say good morning in English?" And this person who spoke Chinese, to play like a prank on him, told him, "Say I am Allah." And so now this tourist who's in America who doesn't speak English He's going around saying to everybody, I am Allah, I am Allah, I am Allah. And he thinks he's saying good morning, good morning, good morning. Okay, he doesn't understand what he's saying. Okay, so if you encounter this person and he says to you, I am Allah, you know that that sentence is explicit blasphemy, it's explicit kufr. But you don't judge this person to be out of Islam until you ask him what he understands from the sentence. And then when he tells you that he thinks this sentence means good morning, then you know he doesn't understand what he's saying. And we don't judge him to have left Islam. He believes that he's just saying good morning. Okay, but even in the case where the person did not understand what he's saying, we still forbid him from saying it again. We explain to him, what you just said does not mean good morning. What you just said is a claim that it means that you're claiming to be the creator of the universe. And that's kufr. You must not ever say it again. Okay? MashaAllah. I'm going to pause here after this example, and I'm going to talk about something that's not in the book. I'm going to talk about something that's not in the book. Inshallah, you understand the rule now. If you hear someone say something that's kufr, or that seems to be kufr, you ask yourself, does that sentence have a meaning that's not kufr? If yes, then you ask the person his intention, and you judge him according to whether he intended the kufr or not. If the person says a sentence that's kufr, that's surely kufr because it's explicit, then you don't ask him what he intended. Instead, you ask him what he understood. Like, what does he think those words in that order actually mean? And if he understands the meaning of what he said, then we judge him to have left Islam, and we don't ask him about his intention. And if he did not understand it, then we don't judge him to have left Islam, but instead we correct him. We tell him not to say that sentence again. That's the basic rule. Now, I want to go into something else. It's called the precautionary shahada. It's called the precautionary shahada. And it works like this. What do you do? And yes, I'm talking to you. What do you do if you learn that such and such a sentence is kufr and takes a person out of Islam? So you know that the one who says that sentence leaves Islam, but you're not sure if you ever said that sentence in the past. You know it's possible that you said it because you can't say for sure that you never said it, but you also can't say for sure that you did say it. Okay, it's possible you said it in the past, but you're not certain one way or the other. In this case, what you can do is you can say the precautionary shahada. In which case, and the way it works is you say the two shahadas immediately without delaying, with the intention that if you said it, then you're coming back to Islam right now. Okay, and then what this shahada will do is it will benefit you if it's the case that truly indeed you did say that sentence in the past. And if you did not say the sentence in the past, then there's no harm. Okay, so you're going to say the shahada with what intention? That if you said it in the past, then you're saying the shahada is now to come back to Islam. All right? But there's only two cases where the precautionary shahada will benefit you. There are only two cases where the precautionary shahada will benefit you. Case number one is the one I just mentioned, where you know the ruling that sentence XYZ takes you out of Islam, but you're not sure if you said it in the past or not. That's the first case, the one we talked about. The second case where it benefits you is the case where you know that statement XYZ takes you out of Islam, and on top of that, you know that you said it. You know you've said it in the past, but you're not sure what your intention was. You're not sure when you said the sentence in the past whether you intended the kufr meaning or whether you intended the not kufr meaning. You remember saying the sentence, but you don't remember what you intended. In this case, also, you say the two shahadas without delay with the intention that if you said that sentence intending the kufr, then you're saying the shahadas now to come back to Islam. These are the two cases where the precautionary shahada will benefit you. And I want to like call your attention to something here. In both of these cases, in both cases where it benefits you, you know that the sentence is kufr. What's the first case? We said you know the sentence is kufr, but you're not sure if you said it in the past. The second case is you know that sentence is kufr, and you know you've said it in the past, but you're not sure if you intended the kufr or if you intended a non-kufr meaning. Okay, in both cases where this benefits you, you know the ruling that sentence XYZ takes you out of Islam. Let me tell you one of the cases where saying the precautionary shahada will not benefit you. If you don't know the ruling. So let's say, for example, you know that you said a certain sentence in the past, but you don't know that that sentence is kufr. Maybe you heard something and you're thinking, that might be kufr. I'm not sure if it's kufr or not. Uh, you don't know. You don't know the ruling. You do know that you said it, but you don't know what the ruling is. You don't know what the Sharia ruling on this sentence is, if it takes you out of Islam or not. See, some people in this case, what do? They want to say the Shahada. They're like, well, if I'm out of Islam, then I'm coming back to Islam right now. They want to say it like a precautionary Shahada. And in this case, it doesn't work. It doesn't benefit you. Because when a person says the Shahada to come to Islam, he must know that he's out of Islam. Okay, you need to first know that you're out of Islam in order for you to say the Shahadas with the intention of entering Islam. Okay, so the people are of two types. You have the people who know for sure they're out of Islam. These people say the shahadas, like the normal shahadas, to come to Islam, not a precautionary shahada. They say the normal shahadas to come back to Islam. And the other type of person is the person who is not sure if he's out of Islam or not. But the reason why he's not sure is because he's not sure of his own actions in the past. He's not sure if he said that sentence. Or even if he knows he said the sentence, he's not sure about his intention. It's his own actions that he's not sure about. As for the ruling of the Sharia, he knows it and he's sure about it. So this person, is in a situation where if he did that thing, then he knows his ruling is that he's out of Islam. And so he's saying, if I did that thing, then I'm saying the Shahada is to come back to Islam. Okay, it benefits in the case where the person knows he's out of Islam or knows that if he said that he's out of Islam. It will not benefit a person who knows he said something and doesn't know the ruling of it. He doesn't know if he's in Islam or out of Islam. Okay, this person, for him saying a precautionary shahada, doesn't do anything for him. It doesn't do anything for him. I'm going to stop there and take some questions, inshallah. This precautionary shahada thing, it's dangerous. Alhamdulillah, we're able to do it to get ourselves out of some difficult situations. But if you do it in the wrong situation, it can put you into a difficult situation. Now, the precautionary shahada, I'm begging all of you to review these last 10 minutes or however much of this lesson I've been talking about it. Review it a lot and make sure you understand the two cases where it benefits you to say the precautionary shahada, and do not say it in any other case. Okay. So I'm not seeing any questions, so I will move on. It says, even if this expression, talk about an expression that's explicit blasphemy, an expression that only means blasphemy. It says, even if this expression came from a wali. What's a wali? A wali is a pious Muslim, a Muslim who has taqwa, a Muslim who performs all of his obligations, avoids all of the haram matters for a long period of time. He avoided all of the haram matters. And on top of that, he does extra stuff. Okay, there's at least one sunnah thing that he does a lot. Usually there's more than one. This person can reach a level where he becomes a wali. Wali means protected. Protected. Once a person reaches the status of being a wali, then Allah protects this person from kufr. If a person becomes a wali, it's no longer possible that he could commit kufr. It's no longer possible that he could leave Islam because he's now protected by Allah from committing kufr. Okay, he's protected. It says, even if this expression, meaning something that's explicit blasphemy, came from a wali while his mind was absent, he will be disciplined. Okay, so these walis, these awliya, what sometimes happens is they reach such a high level uh, that when they enter worship, you know, their minds go away. Their minds get lost in the love of Allah. And then they might be walking around saying things, doing things, and they don't even know what they're saying and doing because their mind is gone. Their mind is lost in the love of Allah, and they're not aware of their surroundings and stuff. And so they might say things, they might do things. So if a person is a wali, but his mind is gone, he might say a sentence that's explicit blasphemy. Of course, because his mind is gone, he falls under one of the five exceptions, right? So he didn't actually leave Islam. He's protected from Allah. Okay, Allah protects him from leaving Islam. Okay, he's protected by Allah from leaving Islam. So even if he says some explicit blasphemy, he won't leave Islam because his mind is gone. It's under one of the five exceptions. But even in this case, what happens? It says, even if this expression came from a wali while his mind was absent, he will be disciplined despite not being accountable at that moment. So, despite the fact that this wali, since his mind is gone, he's not accountable for what he does, the Khalifa or his designated representative will still have this person be punished. Like he may be like restrained, put under house arrest or something like that, um, because he's saying things that are unacceptable. Okay, he might even be hit in order to get him to stop. Okay, so we do this why? Because we don't want the common people to be um, like you don't want it to be a trial or a tribulation upon the common people, because common people will know this person's a wali. This person is like a pious Muslim. Maybe he even did karamat in the past. And so when they hear him saying these terrible things, they might start thinking those are good things to say. And we don't want that. So if a wali started saying bad things because his mind is gone, we keep him away from people so that he doesn't cause fitna. It says, this was said by Izzuddin ibn Abdus Salam. Izzuddin ibn Abdus Salam was a huge scholar of the Shafi'i school. Um, they call him Sultan al-Ulama. Okay, because he was such a big scholar, they gave him that name. MashaAllah. And one of the things he said is that even the wali, whose mind is gone, he will get punished this way. He'll be disciplined. It says this is because discipline affects the one whose mind is absent, just like it affects the one who is clear and sane, and just like it affects the animals. Okay, like if a person is sane with a clear mind, if you yell at him, he's gonna, recoil from it. If you hit him, he's gonna react to it. If you grab him and restrain him, he's gonna react to it. And if someone's mind is gone, he will also react to those things. Just like even an animal will react to those things. It says, for surely Had the beast been defiant and then was hit, it stops its defiance, even though it does not have a mind. You consider an animal like a donkey or something, it's not doing what you tell it to do, so you hit it. What does it do? It stops acting up. Okay, even though the donkey doesn't have a mind. Okay, it doesn't have a mind, it still responds to discipline, right? Similarly, a human being, even when his mind is absent, he responds to discipline. So we discipline the one who is saying these bad things, even though his mind is absent, and even though we recognize that this person did not leave Islam because his mind was absent, he did not leave Islam, but nonetheless, we still protect the community from being harmed by him. It says, likewise, the wali who uttered blasphemy while his mind is absent, when he is hit or shouted at, he would refrain because of the natural effect of being reprimanded. MashaAllah. Hmm. Let's stop here, inshallah, because what's next, it's too late to start a brand new topic of discussion. But the next part of the book is going to deal with sort of more details about a wali and what sorts of things a wali might do and what sorts of things a wali is protected from doing. Okay? Remember, this book is a book of Aqidah. And the purpose here is for us to distinguish between the creator and the creation. Okay, which is important. But it's also a purpose here to distinguish between a prophet and those who are not prophets. That's also important. Okay, and so that means we need to understand what's the difference between a nabi and a wali. The difference between a prophet and a wali, insha'Allah ta'ala. Someone said, please explain about the one who intended blasphemy, that the rules of apostasy are applied to them. So I was going to get to that. That's coming up in a few pages, mashallah. On page 51, we go through the rules of apostasy. We'll get there, inshallah. But yes, if a person says a statement, and based on his answers, we conclude that he left Islam, then he's an apostate, and we treat him as an apostate. Okay? Following the rules we mentioned earlier. We treat him as an apostate, which means he's not a Muslim anymore. Okay, so it means that, we invite him to come back to Islam. And if the Khalifa were still around, there's no Khalifa right now, but if we were in a proper Islamic empire with a Khalifa at the top, then the Khalifa would give him a chance to come back to Islam and execute him if he doesn't. Okay, the apostate would be executed. The apostate doesn't inherit, nor is he inherited from. The apostate cannot marry anyone. When he dies, he's not buried with the Muslims. If he slaughters an animal, the meat is haram. Now, there are a number of rules that come up with the apostate, mashallah. More details around his marriage. All of this is coming up, inshallah, in a few pages. But it's important for us to know. For sure, it's important for us to know. Because there are among us, certainly, people who are sloppy with their tongue. They say things they should not say, and they ended up leaving Islam. And they might not even realize that they left Islam. But if they did leave Islam, then there are judgments that come of this. It's possible that his marriage is over. He might think he's still married to this woman, but the reality is that he may not be. Okay, so it can be a frightening thing. It can really be a very frightening thing. That's why all of us need at all times to think before we speak. Monitor what we're saying. Run it through the filter of the Sharia first. Ask yourself before you speak, is what I'm about to say, is it something permitted by the Sharia to say? And if it's not permitted by the Sharia to say, then don't say it. And if you want to be even better, then I would say, don't say it unless it's rewardable to say. Okay, the words that you say, if there's reward for you in saying them, then say it. Okay, this way you'll be building up treasures, inshallah. But at the very least, if there's potential punishment for saying it, then definitely avoid saying it. MashaAllah. Are there any other questions before we sign out? All right. Well then, let's say La ilaha illallah. La ilaha illallah. La ilaha illallah. La ilaha illallah. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallim. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallim. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. رب اغفر لي وللمؤمنين والمؤمنات. رب اغفر لي وللمؤمنين والمؤمنات. رب اغفر لي وللمؤمنين والمؤمنات. بارك الله فيكم والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته.